Hello, Collective, to a timeless reading of yours. Please bear in mind a few things before we get into the reading. You may be here because you caught a vibe and seeing whether or not anything within the storytelling time is yours. Please bear in mind I am Master 7th, aka 7th, that reads these energies for you should you want to know who she is, what she's all about, and what I have to offer. There is a link in the description box below to give you some insight, alright? I am a master healer that provides remote wellness and tarot intuitive insights. Bear in mind there are also various links within the description box to help you navigate this channel and to make your way over to my sister channel, pardon me, and see whether or not any of the timeline within both of my channels are for you. Okay? Alright, collective. Please remember that this is not a one-to-one reading. This is a general collective reading. So take the messages as they may resonate and leave the rest behind. I'm feeling a lot of joy coming through, so that's nice. Yeah, it's always nice to get that. That's good. That's good. It means that in this moment of time, in this bubble, as I've been saying as of late, maybe for some time to come, who knows, but we're in sort of a bubble every time we're in a reading, right? And right now, it's not to say that this bubble is joyous. No, but there's something happening. You know, Three of Pentacles. Something is procuring at this time, and I feel like your spidey senses are telling you something is unfolding, something is in the wraps, right? Either that means something is ending or there is a beginning unfolding, but either way it's movement energy. And yeah, Ace of Cups and the Page of Pentacles. Yeah, it's moving energy. It's something that you can look forward in to being a part of. Something that brings you momentary joy. It is not that it's not everlasting joy. It's everlasting joy, but it's momentary. It's something to help you get through the harder parts in life. This could be as small as reuniting with someone you haven't spoken to in a long time. Or this could be something major as like deciding to take on a big decision and moving somewhere. It might take small steps, but it's a big opportunity here. It's a big opportunity with the Four of Swords. More or less saying this opportunity is a fragile one for you to maybe even accept, that you can accept this spidey sense of yourself, you know, being able to lean in without having anxiety, being able to lean in without thinking that you're going to spoil the moment or like get in the way of your manifestations. Like, I think this is a buildup of something bigger, of a bigger part that you can learn about yourself in the coming time of the future, about your own character self, like what you can handle, what all the things that life can throw at you, and how you more or less pretty much accept it. It's not that you don't have an opinion on it. I think you're very opinionated to at least knowing where you don't want to be or where you want to see yourself going. And I think that's part of the curiosity that at least I see yourself having about yourself, that is the forward movement of an opportunity coming in, right? Because all that it really means to be forward moving is to go towards the very thing that's anticipating your arrival. And that's more or less already been dictated in the decision you going towards something, right? So yeah, I see this coming time being a moment of regeneration, a replenishing act, okay? Maybe this is a time of taking off, meaning taking off maybe also mean going, like, maybe for some individual, taking time off means being on it, okay? Maybe you've had time off and now you're going back to work and are really like about your game, getting your shit together, you know, and taking on this opportunity with a better head on your shoulders, I'm seeing, okay? There's of course there's kinks that are gonna come, but I see you being able to ironing out the kinks for sure. You see someone's taking time off is wanting to plan the moments of self-care in the moments that you are off. So let's say your busy schedule, like, but you've found that window within your calendar of life where you're gonna just spend that for yourself. And yeah, look at that. You're gonna spend that for yourself with the hermit energy. I fucking love that. Yeah, you're gonna be celebrating that moment being away. And some of you may like very, very, very small. I don't see a lot of needing this push, but for those who are afraid if this is them, you're gonna be pushed into this opportunity of self-enjoyment, okay? Because self-enjoyment is not an easy thing, but I think the outcome of the lesson will be, yeah, I fucks with myself, and I think that's a beautiful thing to affirm without it being mantras that allows you to affirm it. I think you're really putting those pieces in together, and then it's like, oh, I've been able to do this all along. It's just maybe taking this time to get there. And, and what becomes an opportunistic level of maturity, I think, for self-acceptance is realizing, damn, I really did not need to carry that burden this whole fucking time. I mean, I get it. I understand why I did. I understand why, what was what, but I really didn't. I really didn't need to do that. And I think those are monumental moments in life, like hugely monumental in ways that no one can prepare you for. There's no one that could have done it a perfect way to get you an opportunity in this type of level. I don't think anyone can really induce that. I think this is self-medicated. Okay, this is self-medicated stuff for sure. Okay, this is no one telling you to be something. This is more or less listening to the narratives of somebody telling you what you can't achieve, and you're like, you latched onto that, and you were like, yeah, right, I can't achieve that. I'll show you kind of attitude. And it's rebellious, more so in the right way, and that's good. That's good. It's way more good than it could be bad. It's bad for those who have an opinion and just don't like what it is that you're doing. All right, we have Justice and the Three of Swords. Yeah, so majority of the people around you don't like what it is that you're doing, okay? They have a lot of things that they want to explain, a lot of things that let's put it this way, their emotions to see you morph into... their emotions that they're going to see you morph into who you are because you're the tree in this background, right? You are the one rooted. And people around you are trying to be this in this reading, this scale, trying to justify if they can pretty much like accept that you are this tree. Mind you, there are a bunch of people, including this person, you can walk probably in a park with, and they ignore many fucking trees. It's maybe not until you're like, oh, look at this beautiful tree, that they finally turn around and pay attention to a tree. This whole entire time they're surrounded by so many trees and have a lot to offer as far as spending the time with you and wanting to be in that moment, and nothing's really wrong in sharing that moment with you, but it's more or less they only have something to say when nobody asks them. And I think you're becoming more conscientious of those things, of those people, of those moments, that it's not their fault that they're reacting, but you're also learning not to take it fucking personal. Okay? It was a very personal situation. I've always hated when people are like, oh, you shouldn't take it so personal. But I'm the only audience here, right? If I'm the only audience here, and I'm like the first person in the front row ticket seat viewpoint of understanding what it is that you just said to me, I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be like, no, I'm going to take that shit fucking personal. You said it to me. I'm the audience. I'm right here. I'm a witness to what you had just had said. So that's me taking it personally. I think the key, the intelligence to that quote could be an onset of, I'm going to hold off to letting that affect my fragile, because emotions are fragile, I'm going to wait and pause until I allow this to be part of how I compute with my emotions. And, I mean, is that an easy feat to try to, like, catch and be like, whoa, I need this to slow down and see if this is something that it's about me or them. But this is pretty much the journey of an empath, right? Trying to figure out, whoa, I'm very emotional this time. Is it my emotions that are being triggered? Or am I carrying the understanding of somebody else's triggering? And that's when someone can start beginning their journey, whether or not, what does the title empath really mean? Because empath means that you're a sensitive, I hate that word too, sensitive individual. You're not sensitive, you're a high vibrational, powerful fucking human being who can pick up on energy really quickly. The way you are processing the legitimacy of what it is that you're picking up has a lot to do with how in tune you are as the energy source to then in that moment transcribe the message. You have so many fucking distractions at all times that it might be your body will react to exactly what it needs to react to at any given space, because everything happens so fast. To protect the body, the mind only allows itself to compute with what it wants and how you, the human, are going to accept the message. And that's where being human can be a fragile situation, because people can exploit that valid point about themselves and then get into trauma triggering each other, where manipulation of, well, am I here to serve you or am I here to serve myself, can become a tug of war. So this is why the cry out to stay in your lane, mind your own business, is the most critical point in taking the next step forward into infinity, because only within you being on your main lane can you access how many lanes you got to figure out your moves. Okay, you're not limited to one lane. You're not limited to being on your lane and never seeing anyone. Basically, there could be a traffic jam in your fucking lane, okay? So it's not like you're not gonna run out of options staying in your lane. It's about controlling that this is your path. I was going to say destiny, but that's a controversial term, right? So this is the path. And I think you're very much in your way to sync up or find measurements to always remain in the closest version of your own version of sync with your intuition to create that path for yourself. Because then nothing is regrettable. Nothing is a mistake. Consequences are lessons that you show up to. I see someone also taking their break in, like, not taking the time off of people, I think that's also the Hermit card related. Hermit really wants you to not only experience time with yourself, but experience your time as the heartbeat with ether. Those are really truly beautiful moments that are so sacred to being your own. You almost don't wish anybody to come into that world, because it's just such a private world between you and it. It's unspeakable. It's unconditional. You can always travel within that world, and it always has a lesson for you. Even if you stepped into the world thinking you're bad, you leave that world feeling refreshed. That's how unconditional it is. So what do we have here? We have the Nine of Cups. So yeah, it's pretty much that being sunken in a vortex, right? Like, quite literal. And then knowing that there is, when you take a bottle, for example, and you empty it out in a sink, like any water bottle or some contents of liquid, and you shake, you stir the bottle, right? You create a momentum that the liquid within the bottle creates a funnel, and then it comes out, the liquid comes out of the end of the bottle much faster, instead of it just gulping down and the air pockets having to regenerate and pumping the liquid out of the bottle. And I think you're more or less swimming in that science of possibilities. Where can you, within the midst of chaos, reach the center where there's air, where there's breath, where there's a way that you can rise to the surface while being deep underwater and rejuvenate. You know, imagine that there are scuba divers that go diving without the gear. They can hold their breath for a very long time. You know, even underwater dancers, swimmers. You know, like, to not fear water is almost a phobia that a lot of people have a hard time. It's funny, basically, like, it's interesting how the elements create phobias, right? For me, the phobia was like the world ending. I think that's like an air element phobia, more so air than anything. And then there's phobia of water, you know, drowning. Air phobia could also be afraid of heights, you know. I believe more fire energy for me and phobias related is more like existential, the questions of life, what it means to permeate through the pulse of earth is more fire energy for me. And then earth energy is more like the phobia of knowledge, maybe, you know, the having to be something, having a place, taking up space and not being afraid to take up space. I think also the phobia of death would kind of fall into a bit of earth energy, because that it's about space, you know. It's like, what is space? Do I feel safe in this space? Can I take up space? And I think the element of groundedness really puts that into perspective, and that's earth energy for me. You know, maybe that's energy, maybe this changes later on, but right now that's what I would say. That's what I would say, for sure. So, you know, Nine of Cups is usually also the energy that you spent a long time wishing upon a star for something. And I don't think it's about being in anticipation of something is going to be answered, but more so knowing that it has been answered, and you're just like, you're annoyed that it hasn't arrived yet. That's kind of what I'm getting. What do we got here? Wow, another Hermit energy. Yeah, in this reading for sure, I'm seeing its seclusion is learning that to get outside of your mind and creating a sacred space for the person trying to live within your mind is a narrative that you may need to explore, so that way you always have somewhat of a third eye perspective, a third party perspective of your life, and in that perspective you critique yourself sometimes. You become curious of an aerial viewpoint if you're satisfied with the decisions you've made this far, and the decisions you allow to continue, or the decisions you're afraid of making. Really means about taking up space. Like, if you have that aerial viewpoint of yourself, you've accepted that you want to take up much of that space. You want to see yourself in that aspect of vastness, to see if you can focus in on yourself and something. At the same time, maybe also struggling that in order to understand and get to that focus point, teaching this individual, which would be you, that you are already vast and that you don't need an aerial viewpoint. You don't need that validation. That validation is already set in place for you being what you are. that ties up loose ends, and catching your anxiety. Not being afraid to say, all right, I accept what you're saying to me, but I'm also not immature in knowing that what I'm most likely have anxiety about is an old memory. It's an old memory, because I think there's a lot of maturity for those individuals who still are induced with anxiety to know that they're smart enough in that moment to realize there's nothing about this moment I need to be afraid of, because I have absolutely no idea what the fuck to expect anyway. So this is, in a way, I think your body is then going to catch up with your maturity and tell you, yeah, there's something contingent, however, that we want you to understand about yourself due to what you may not remember exactly in full detail, that I do remember. I just don't want you to experience that anymore. And so because the body has induced itself a more or less a natural flight and fight response that you didn't know you have to learn about just yet. And then life unfolds. You meet people, you go through, however your life shows up for itself for you. And you get to be in dialogue with that of which was hurt. And that's where maybe anxiety was born. And that's where maybe trauma lies. And that's where maybe you have to go home and remembering that, one, nothing can harm you in the regards of the predator coming back again. In the cases where the predator does come back again, we're going to look at the bottom of the deck for that. Okay, it's very interesting. The Ace of Cups at the bottom of the deck with the Emperor, the Two of Wands, and the Wheel of Fortune. And the Nine of Wands at the bottom. If there is a predator, whether it's yourself or someone else that is in charge in this zone here of wanting to manipulate, being on the end of being a sociopath, a psychopath, or a narcissist, I won't fill you in with the cliche that time heals all wounds. For that, I'm very well aware that the emotions may have induced the narrative of angst towards it, saying that time hasn't fixed anything. So if time hasn't fixed anything, time hasn't healed anything. I think that's the tricky part about time. In delivering readings and delivering wellness for individuals anywhere on earth so far. I have clients that are overseas, that time is, we say time is an illusion to get the mind to think, yet we understand that operating in being able to speak upon it, being able to be present requires time. We usually attend to certain things because, and so we need certain congruency, certain things. So we allow ourselves to say that we will show up at this time, or we make plans and appointments at certain times. We also subjectify ourselves to holding somebody accountable, responsible, and pretty much critique an individual due to time. Whether they send that text message, whether they're going to ask that question, or whether they're going to show up, if they're going to call you back, if they're going to like my Facebook post that I posted up. When is he or she going to make the first move? There are a lot of inquiries based off of time. Yet every time that someone hears these possible niches in readings, for example, they get induced with the fact that this is a general collective reading. Not just me, there are other people who do this. And, this may be a personal reading. This message is for you if you received it, to give you more arsenal to feed that of which it is you already know. Yet the question is, if you already knew it, and someone came and validated what you think is validation through resonancy, and time has gone by and you haven't received that said phone call, that said email, text message, you were late, you missed the bus, you're in a traffic, and time is against you. What do we do with that? Who do we answer to? Who do we ask to fix that problem? Where could we go to fix that problem? The answer will always be you. I think I understood it more when I became a master Reiki healer. I understood it even more so when becoming a master Reiki healer wasn't enough for me, and I had more emotions to understand something, and that brought me to then the only conversation I'll be willing to have, which was with me and myself, and the aspects that are contingent of always having been around me. Those are the ones that I listen to. Those are the vibrations that I listen to make sense of what every experience couldn't shape. People in and out, friends, family, folk, couldn't validate for me. There was a connection to what was that I had control over, that is part of me, that could make sense of things without needing validation from anyone outside of this language that I have with myself. And pretty much that's when Zai was created and born. And to become in that knowledge, there's an unspeakable truth that resides in sacred self-love, that it's not about not wanting to share, it's just what are the words to be able to say it. It's not about truths, because all the truths were my lies, and my truths were lies to others. So who do you compete with? And you learn that you compete with only yourself, because you're putting variables to understand life, yet you forget that when you put these variables to understand life, you're only in competition with yourself. We do this thing that we blame other people. We hold other people accountable for putting us into certain emotional brackets. Yet the more we spend time in these emotional brackets, we have to accept at one point that it wasn't the person that put us in that emotional bracket. It wasn't. No matter how whatever they did triggered us, it wasn't them that did the issue. It wasn't. It's usually not how people are cunning, or people share their misery without any consequence to who they're talking to. There's a science that contradicts itself, and I think that's where the universe is very perfect, to explain that lesson. And to exploit that lesson, I think, is what has been missing in the eons of time. And I'm all for all that coming out to being exposed. And I think the majority of you who will come across this reading will understand that in more ways than one. So you're not rushing. You're not anticipatory of anything. You're like, more like, let the show begin. I can finally just do my life. I don't have to address any battle anymore. The battle is over. I see someone maybe having like a medical mystery. Keep that in mind. It's part of ascension symptoms, wanting to really, really, really blow your mind, okay? I know in those moments resources help people better. So I will say that As Many Lives, As Many Masters by Dr. Brian Weiss would be a good book to consider reading. Okay, we have the Eight of Pentacles. So I think that money is coming in. All right, money is coming in though in ways that you need to write it in. Like, not necessarily about like affirming and doing like a money spell and shit like that. I'll leave my personal opinion out of it. Yet money is coming in the way that you will indoctrinate it to come in. Okay, however that may make sense to you. Okay, it's contingent on many things that you have to figure out for yourself. I don't think you're listening to this reading to figure that out, so I'm not gonna speak on that, because I think that's a personal matter for you to take on yourself and see how that can be a prosperous thing for you. I think if that makes sense already, you already have an idea. Run with that. Run with your idea. We have the Ten of Cups. Yeah, whichever way you decide to really lean into your lessons, there are going to be several moments that you may think you've lost control, and then the moment I think you realize that you think you lost control, you're like, oh shit, never mind, I actually gained control. I think this is a beautiful yin and yang of character development. Very deep here. This might not be very like in your face kind of transactions happening to get you to that. I think this is very private, monumental euphorias that you kind of take with you, that you already have with you. I don't think you're really taking much out of this besides opening up more of yourself. But yeah, I think that you're doing in private moments where it counts, where you have less distractions, less concerns, and sure as hell don't need to answer to no one, so I like that for you. Okay. Sometimes not answering to someone also means being around the people that just accept you for who you are, so I think this is a great way of like not being too exiled. I don't think you guys are gonna be like kicked out anywhere. I think for the majority of you already been there, done that. There's already like 2020 hindsight bullshit may have happened in 2020. So your 2020 is like yesterday, but you realize 4 years have gone by. So I think that's a lot of ways for you to be contingent on that time in and of itself, since probably 2000 has been a what the fuck kind of roller coaster. Okay, and I think that's again the trickster aspect with the atmosphere of whatever narrative you want to latch onto, that Mother Earth is going through a whole fucking detox. She doesn't care how you hear that shit. She's going through a detox called climate change. It's a fucking detox. Political opinion is not of my interest to divulge in, but I just definitely fucking know. Yeah, frequency, ether. Yeah, I'm staying out of its way, or I'm listening in and leaning into her and saying where is the safest zone that I can. I don't have to reap much of her discipline. But mommy's all around trying to ground us all. Mommy's grounded everybody. Y'all felt that shit. Mommy came around and just grounded the fuck everybody. Everybody had to go in house arrest. Like everyone. Everyone lost their shit. Everyone lost their shit. There was no way. Even like the fucking the fucking animal 10 feet down in the fucking ocean even heard that fucking 10 miles, 10 feet, 10 miles down the ocean heard that shit. Oh, we have to go home. All right, I'll go home. You know, and that's the ongoing funny of it being also a weird conspiracy. Why do we have to argue so much in a place that is our only home? You know, but you come from that aerial point of viewpoint for some people are like, oh, you're so far off, or you're so deep. I guess you're shallow. That's nice. Nice to meet you. We carry on forth. All right. The river dam seems to be sure in that one. Okay. Magician. So yeah, I think that some of you are dabbling with your own beliefs. Dabbling what is tarot. Dabbling what is the right reader. What does it mean to read? Can you read yourself? Can everyone? Of course everyone can read. You know. Oh man. It becomes really interesting to see how fragile beings can become when you throw resources at them. It can be overwhelming. Too much can be overwhelming, and not enough could be earth-shattering. Right? But the magician at this time, it's more or less asking you to step into what you like to do the most, so that you can feel yourself conjuring up, like literally conjuring up your life. Starting with how you feel, understanding thoughts, what produces thoughts, how they are coming forth from you. You know, where were they birthed from? Are they independent thoughts? Are they thoughts that have just morphed over someone telling you their opinion? You know, I think this is very a time to get in a version of independent thought. I mean, it couldn't have been any louder over the last few years that type of cognitive dissonance needs to be repeated over and over and over again until you realize it's you yourself that you have to worry about. You can worry about all the other narratives if you want to, but if while worrying about that your life's in shit, you have the wrong narrative picked up for yourself. You're prioritizing yourself on something more or less wrong. That vote's not going to matter. That's not going to matter. And the vaccine, that's not going to matter. None of those contingencies are going to matter if the concern of doing it right is focused on something externally of you. Because that's admittance that you don't have something worried, something understood about yourself. Somebody who has an understanding for themselves allows themselves to be comforted with the decisions that they have to make, even if it takes them a moment to make them, or even if they opt out of not making a decision, is a decision made. All that proves no worry, and that is a rightful way to exist without it needing to be a battle or a war. Yeah. Like a peace treaty for self. Yeah. All right, let's see. So we can get here. Alright, I think for moving forward, yeah, High Priestess and the Six of Cups is the moon energy. I think some of you are going to take this time out to really be, aware of where you go to for spiritual enlightenment, spiritual ascension. The best way I can say that to honor that is, fuck yeah, I'll do that. Like I said, when I became a master Reiki healer, I was more than pissed. I'll leave that story for another time. Yeah, stepping into your zone is also accepting that you're making. I love that this high priestess has like the devilish horns a little bit, okay? Not a little bit, but she has a devil horn. It could be an Aries energy too, you know? But either way, it's the ego energy for me, which is when the devil energy comes out, I have to make homage to the devil energy, you know? There's nothing to fear of the devil. The devil is very much real. It's the ego of yourself that doesn't know whether it's of light or darkness that wants to play a game. You know, whatever else comes on the top of that story unfolding itself begins with the ego not knowing whether or not it wants to be operating of whatever light it comes from or whatever inevitable darkness it's part of. I think some of you are going to wake up to the idea that not all readers are alike. I think you're going to have your own personal opinions to how much you take of this energy of mine, and just in general moving forward, and how that applies for yourself and your third eye and your relationship to your third eye and your own intuition, how they both interact with one another, and how you can navigate that while safely being within a world of either accepting you being more of yourself or giving you havoc for you being more of yourself, and you being in the middle of that, and then finding your universe, which is very much right here. All right. I'm going to leave the messages with you. I'm wishing you a wonderful morning and night wherever you are in the ether of this time and space. And may you keep flowing, growing, and glowing. Take care.